Hi, I'm Mina.
And I'm Yules.
Thanks for tuning in to Artificially Informed.
Welcome back to the deep dive. You have handed us a truly mind-bending stack of material today.
I know, right?
It's one of those weeks where the global landscape feels like it's being pulled in two completely opposite directions and with equal intensity.
It is an extraordinary study in juxtaposition.
On one side, we're grappling with these deep cosmic mysteries, scientific breakthroughs that honestly feel like they're straight out of science fiction.
And on the other, we're navigating some of the most volatile and, frankly, chaotic political flashpoints happening right here on Earth.
Exactly.
And our mission here for you is to try and cut through this incredible complexity. We're going to provide a really comprehensive, balanced, and thoroughly analyzed picture of what's truly critical right now.
And we have it all.
We do. We've got profound breakthroughs in fundamental physics that demand, a total reevaluation of reality itself. And that's set against a deeply conflicted international political arena.
We're talking Ukraine, the Middle East.
And significant ideological realignments happening here in the U.S. and in Europe.
That sheer scope means we need to just jump right into the most, let's say, provocative concepts. Since this deep dive is all about those immediate aha moments, let's start at the very top.
Okay.
We're talking about time travel. Is paradox-free time travel actually possible?
When I first read these reports, I really thought we had accidentally grabbed a screenplay from a major Hollywood studio.
I thought the same thing.
But no, this is cutting-edge theoretical physics. And it forces us to reconsider the most sacred concept in the universe, causality.
Okay, let's unpack this. We've seen reports detailing a pretty groundbreaking theoretical framework. It's from physicists at the University of Queensland.
That's right.
And they claim they've found a way around the single biggest, most famous hurdle to time travel, the grandfather paradox.
The grandfather paradox, as you know, is the ultimate logic bomb.
It's a classic.
It really is. If you successfully go back in time and prevent your grandfather from meeting your grandmother, how could you possibly exist to even make that journey in the first place? It creates a definitive logical contradiction that most theoretical physics has considered, an ironclad reason why time travel must be impossible.
Or at least fundamentally limited in some way.
Exact.
But this new model suggests that time itself has built-in safeguards. How do they claim to overcome this? Does the universe step in to play security guard?
It suggests something pretty close to that, actually. The model implies that time is far more flexible and self-correcting than we've conventionally understood it to be.
Okay.
This framework is rooted really deeply in the mathematical interpretations of quantum mechanics and general relativity.
The heavy hitters.
The heaviest. The central idea is that instead of you altering past events, which would cause a contradiction, the universe would, mathematically speaking, force the temporal journey to follow a consistent path.
So if I went back to try and stop my grandparents from meeting some unforeseen force, maybe I slip on a banana peel or a pigeon interrupts my speech, it prevents the act.
Yeah.
And that ensures the outcome already meshes with the future I came from.
That's an excellent way to visualize it. Essentially, you could go back, but anything you try to do that would logically negate your own existence would fail.
Huh.
The outcome of your temporal intervention would already be baked into the history you remember. The universe, in effect, self-regulates to ensure the stability of the timeline.
But wait, if the universe automatically prevents the paradox, doesn't that remove all free will from the time traveler?
Ah, now that is the crucial philosophical and ethical question this research raises.
It sounds less like science and more like destiny or something. If the outcome is guaranteed, why even bother making the trip?
Well, the mathematical model ensures self-consistency, meaning physics wouldn't break down, but it doesn't necessarily dictate how the outcome is enforced.
Okay, I see.
The model just shows that physical variables can adjust within certain constraints to avoid the paradox. You might still have the free will to try, but the universe has an overarching preference for stable loops over contradiction.
I like that, a preference for stable loops.
What's fascinating here is that it shifts the narrative. It moves time travel from being purely theoretical musing to something that could potentially become, as reports put it, actionable science.
Right.
It encourages a total reevaluation of fundamental concepts in physics, suggesting causality isn't a straight line, but a remarkably stable loop.
Speaking of invisible forces shaping reality, let's move from the theoretical cosmos to the experimental, specifically to CERN.
The European Organization for Nuclear Research.
Exactly. Scientists there have been dealing with a phenomenon that sounds like a supernatural thriller. a ghost haunting the superproton synchrotron accelerator.
But this is pure particle physics, right?
Precisely. And thankfully, no actual ghosts are involved.
Okay, good.
The ghost is far from supernatural. It's a highly complex and subtle interplay of circulating particles within the superproton synchrotron, which is, one of the most powerful particle accelerators in the world.
And what were they seeing? Researchers noticed these unusual and unpredictable fluctuations in the circulating proton beams. And if the beam isn't stable, the experiments just fail.
And the root cause was almost disappointingly mundane, yet profoundly complicated. Tiny, microscopic imperfections in the accelerator's magnets and the physical machinery itself.
That's the starting point. But when you have billions of particles circulating in a closed loop for millions of cycles, those tiny disruptions, those microscopic flaws in the magnetic field, they don't average out.
Add up.
They compound. Over numerous cycles, those slight, almost imperceptible deviations coalesced into what accelerator physicists call resonances.
Okay, can you explain that a bit?
Think of it like pushing a swing. If you apply tiny, perfectly timed nudges, the swing eventually reaches a huge amplitude.
Got it.
The particles were oscillating out of control because of this unseen structural influence, the ghost force, that was causing their behavior to fluctuate in a complex four-dimensional space.
That analogy of the swing really helps visualize it. It's the buildup of small inputs creating a massive destabilizing output. The work of accelerator physicist Giuliano Franchetti was crucial in figuring this out, correct?
Absolutely. Franchetti's team demonstrated mathematically how these disruptions created these persistent, resonant effects that actively destabilize the beam.
So why does understanding this ghost force matter beyond just keeping the beam stable for experiments?
That's the so what we need to nail down for you.
Exactly.
If we connect this to the bigger picture of fundamental physics, understanding and controlling these multifaceted resonances fundamentally alters how we can design and operate the next generation of high-energy accelerators.
And CERN's primary mission is to peel back the layers around dark matter and other elusive particles.
Precisely. The key here is that by mastering these subtle, complex, four-dimensional forces, we might be opening a new path toward generating and observing new forms of particle interactions that we haven't seen yet.
It reinforces this idea that what we thought was stable and predictable, a high-energy proton beam, is actually incredibly sensitive to subtle, previously ignored forces.
Moving slightly further out into our solar system now, we have two really intriguing astronomical updates.
Okay.
First, the unexpected fragmentation of comet C2025K1, also known as ATLS. It's split into 3 distinct fragments.
I always assumed a comet breaking up was just a catastrophic failure, but watching this happen is actually valuable for science.
No, it's priceless data. Comet fragmentation, especially observed in near real time like with ATLS, it gives scientists a direct, unplanned peek into the interior composition and structure of the comet's nucleus.
Right, because comets are basically frozen relics from the earliest days of our solar system.
Exactly. When they fragment, they expose pristine, unaltered material. Scientists can study the processes of fragmentation and how these dynamics change as the comet gets closer to the sun. It's a rare, naturally occurring experiment.
And it informs our understanding of the solar system's original building blocks, the stuff that formed the planets. Okay, so from comets to the ultimate existential question, a theory that tries to answer, why does the universe even exist?
The big one.
Right. Why is there more matter than antimatter? If they were created equally in the Big Bang, they should have just annihilated each other, leaving nothing but a universe filled with energy. But, here we are.
And the proposed solution involves something called cosmic knots.
Okay, I need to slow down on this cosmic knots idea. Help me visualize that. Are we talking about actual knots in space-time, or is that a metaphor?
That's a crucial question. The concept is rooted in theoretical structures originally imagined by the physicist Lord Kelvin, but modern physics has brought them back.
So not literal rope.
Not literal rope, no. These cosmic knots are theoretical, stable configurations that emerged shortly after the Big Bang when the cosmos was still incredibly hot and dense. They're configurations of field lines, but they're stable, highly complex structures.
And they were generated by 2 powerful interacting symmetries during that early period.
Correct. And these knots dominated the young cosmos.
And the mechanism for tipping the scales toward matter relies on a bizarre quantum phenomenon to unravel these knots.
It does, and it's beautifully complex. The mechanism involves quantum tunneling, where particles can effectively pass through energy barriers that should be insurmountable.
Like walking through a wall.
In a sense, yes. This tunneling causes these stable knots to eventually unravel or decay, and when they unraveled, they produced heavy, right-handed neutrinos.
And the decay of those neutrinos is the key step.
That's the theory. That decay likely tipped the universe toward matter, creating the slight asymmetry needed to ensure that for every billion pairs of matter and antimatter that annihilated, there was one particle of matter left over.
And that leftover matter became everything we see today. It is just mind-blowing that the abstract behavior of tiny particles determine the macrocosmic reality of our existence.
It's an elegant bridge between quantum mechanics and cosmology.
Let's bring it much closer to home now, or at least closer to the moon, with a major safety warning for NASA's Artemis program.
NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration.
Yes, their ambitious lunar program. New research has fundamentally redefined the dangers awaiting future long-term lunar bases.
This is a critical discovery that demands immediate changes to space architecture planning. New research indicates that seismic activity, what we call moonquakes, is the primary cause of terrain shifts near the Apollo 17 landing site.
And for decades, the working assumption was that it was meteoroid impacts, right?
That's right. Infrequent meteoroid impacts were thought to be the biggest culprit in moving lunar dust and rocks.
But the reality is far more structurally worrying.
Exactly. The evidence points to an active fault line beneath the moon's surface. This fault has been causing terrain shifts, landslides, and lunar creep for millions of years. It's slow, but it's relentless, and the moonquakes are the driving force.
So what are the immediate Artemis implications? If we're planning to build long-term sustainable lunar bases, should we be panicking right now?
Well, for brief missions, the risk is minimal, but for establishing long-term permanent bases, this poses substantial concerns.
You can't build on a moving foundation.
You can't. You can't build complex, pressurized habitats on a constantly moving foundation. The findings strongly recommend that NASA update its safety protocols immediately and, most importantly, avoid constructing any critical infrastructure near these affected slopes or scarps.
So we need new data to find a stable neighborhood on the moon.
Precisely. New, sophisticated seismic instruments are now urgently needed to monitor lunar geology more accurately as they gear up for the Artemis missions. This discovery is a fundamental revision to our understanding of the moon's safety profile. It is geologically active, not inert.
We started in the cosmos, looking at how the universe self-corrects for paradoxes. Now let's bring that theme of structural pressure down to Earth, because whether it's a moon fault line or a multinational tech giant, we're seeing massive systems buckling under pressure and forced to change course.
The corporate knots.
Exactly. Let's talk about the corporate knots now, starting with the race for virtual and extended reality.
In the world of tech, Meta is clearly feeling the competitive heat in the mixed reality space.
For sure.
They've delayed the release of their highly anticipated Phoenix mixed reality glasses from late 2026 to 2027.
The official reason given is that they need more breathing room to get the details right. Specifically to ensure they can compete with rivals. And that competition is undoubtedly the Apple Vision Pro, which is already setting an incredibly high bar for immersive mixed reality.
That's the outward strategy. But if we connect this to the underlying financial realities, it's a reflection of immense pressure. Meta's Reality Labs division, which is the engine for all these products, is reportedly facing budget cuts of up to 30%.
Wow, 30% is huge.
It is. So this delay isn't just about perfection. It's a strategic risk-reward scenario. They risk losing momentum by waiting, but they gain time to ensure a high-quality product launch against Apple while operating under significantly tighter financial constraints. They have to make this product a hit.
Meanwhile, Intel is racing to maintain its relevance in the processing power market. CEO Pat Gelsinger is staking his entire reputation on a mission to save Moore's Law.
The prediction that transistor density doubles every 2 years.
And that's been considered dead or dying for years.
It has. Gelsinger's objective is incredibly ambitious. He aims to produce the first silicon wafers by 2028 and commercial systems by 2029, operating under a concept he calls Super Moore's Law.
So this isn't just incremental improvement.
No, it's a desperate attempt to leapfrog the competition. This is a crucial, high-stakes battle for global chip dominance, pitting Intel directly against foundries like TSMC and design giants like NVIDIA. The entire future of high-performance computing, everything from advanced AI to military systems, relies on whether they can maintain this relentless exponential pace.
And on the other side of that tech spectrum, you've got Apple dealing with what some reports describe as one of its most tumultuous periods since the passing of Steve Jobs.
Right.
An executive exodus that could radically impact its long-term innovation strategy.
The stability at Apple's top levels is definitely in question. The most critical potential departure mentioned is Johnny Srouji. He's the senior vice president of hardware technologies and the company's chip chief.
He's often called the brains behind Apple's custom silicon, right? The chips that give the iPhone and Mac their massive performance edge.
Exactly. They built their entire modern identity around controlling their own chip design.
So if he were to leave, what would that mean for Apple?
His exit would create a massive vacuum. It would have colossal implications for future hardware innovation, including the next generations of the iPhone and the Vision Pro. It would threaten the core strategy that has defined their success this decade.
And the reports say CEO Tim Cook has been informed of Srouji's deliberations.
Yes, which only heightens the internal uncertainty and shows just how critical this moment is for the company.
Moving from personal tech to transportation, the accelerator is officially on the floor for autonomous vehicles. We're seeing the deployment of autonomous taxi services like Waymo and Cruise in designated urban areas.
And we've largely reached SAE Level 4 autonomy in these areas.
Okay, remind us what Level 4 means.
Level 4 means the vehicle can handle all driving tasks under specific environmental conditions without any expectation of human intervention or takeover.
And key to this advance are technical breakthroughs like V2X.
Vehicle-to-everything communication. It allows cars to talk to infrastructure traffic lights, road sensors, and to each other, creating a truly connected grid.
Plus, the reliance on AI and machine learning for real-time object detection and safety decisions must be increasing exponentially. They're processing data streams at speeds no human driver could possibly match.
Absolutely. The technology promises to dramatically reduce traffic accidents caused by human error, which are responsible for the vast majority of incidents globally. That's the massive, life-saving promise.
But there's a catch, isn't there? That promise is still bumping up against the reality of public skepticism and, more importantly, regulatory hurdles.
It is. The few high-profile incidents involving test vehicles, even if they're statistically rare, have raised significant alarms among the public and regulators.
It shows that while the technology is advanced, the road to full, widespread public acceptance is still incredibly complex.
Exactly. Regulators are struggling to create rules that can keep pace. They have to balance the clear societal benefit of reduced human error accidents against the need for ironclad safety assurance, which the public demands.
The pace of innovation and change is so aggressive in the tech world that we're seeing new corporate philosophies emerge just to cope.
Like the concept of startup refounding.
Right. What is that exactly?
It's a crucial new concept, particularly in venture capital and tech. Refounding means a startup must be prepared to fundamentally reboot its mission, its vision, its operational strategies, not just apply surface-level tweaks to avoid obsolescence.
It sounds like a company has to be willing to disrupt itself continuously.
That's a perfect way to put it. Merely launching a company once is no longer enough to guarantee longevity.
It sounds like an internal corporate existential crisis. The company has to accept that its original premise may be obsolete, even if it's still making money.
Exactly. And investors are responding to this need for profound resilience. VCs, or venture capitalists, are increasingly keen on supporting flexible startups committed to this kind of self-disruption.
They see it as a hedge against exponential technological change.
It is. They aren't just adapting to market conditions, they are future-proofing their core business model. It signals a major cultural shift where continuous innovation is the standard.
Now, away from Silicon Valley, we have some sobering news from the traditional retail sector, what we've been calling the retail squeeze. We heard about a 79-year-old appliance chain closing all its locations without filing for bankruptcy.
This is a devastating consequence of that squeezing, and it illustrates a specific financial danger. Unlike a restaurant closing, this chain shutting down without bankruptcy protection will have a huge impact on customers who made advance payments for expensive items.
Things they now won't receive.
Right. They'll have a difficult legal battle to retrieve those funds. It's a stark reminder of the vulnerabilities in the traditional retail sector. We also noted a major fast food rival closing restaurants due to intense competition and shifting consumer preferences, especially the growing demand for healthier options.
Finally, let's touch on a controversial new employment policy in the UK aimed at addressing youth unemployment.
Minister Pat McFadden has stated that young people on benefits risk losing financial support if they decline one of the 55,000 new job placements being offered.
What's the government's perspective on this?
Their view is that this is a proactive step to reduce youth unemployment by providing mandatory training and work experience, mainly in sectors like construction and hospitality, which are actively seeking labor. They're aiming to help 350,000 young individuals gain skills and transition into stable employment.
But critics are raising alarms, and I think rightly so. They worry about unfair penalties.
Of course.
If you have a valid reason, maybe personal health issues or transportation difficulties, you could lose your essential financial support.
It creates significant pressure on job seekers to accept positions that might not align with their long-term skills or physical capabilities. It's a classic policy tension. The drive to reduce dependency on state benefits versus concerns over penalizing vulnerable populations.
Shifting gears now to the highest stakes arena, international relations. Part 3 of our deep dive is dominated by the enduring conflict in Ukraine, coupled with major ideological and military realignments across the globe.
And the situation in Ukraine continues to present profoundly contradictory signals. It really highlights the enormous chasm between diplomatic efforts and the reality on the ground.
Right. So on one hand, President Volodymyr Zelensky has reported significant progress in ongoing discussions with U.S. officials.
Specifically, U.S. Special Envoy Witkoff regarding a potential security framework and peace plan.
Yet the diplomatic table often feels like a smokescreen for the military reality. Almost simultaneously, as those U.S.-hosted talks in Florida were wrapping up, Russia launched massive overnight missile and drone strikes.
And they specifically hammered Ukraine's energy infrastructure and targeted the industrial city of Kremenchuk. The timing is clearly a strategic move to exert maximum pressure.
To ensure that Ukraine is negotiating from a position of systemic weakness.
It undermines the very diplomatic efforts that are underway. It certainly reinforces the deep-seated tension. And adding to the external conflict, there's a highly emotional debate domestically over territorial compromise.
The reports from DW indicate that Ukrainians living in the Donbas region expressed shock and anger at the mere idea of ceding their territory to Russia.
They fear outright abandonment. You have to remember there are around 200,000 civilians still living near the front lines, dependent on Ukraine's control for aid and stability.
And from Kyiv's strategic perspective, there is internal complexity. Ukrainian MP Roman Kostenko suggested that actively delaying peace negotiations might actually be the wisest course.
The goal being to hold out until Ukraine can secure a more favorable outcome later, rather than being pushed into an unjust agreement now.
And this strategy of delay is also complicated by internal factors, like lingering corruption scandals, which erodes international trust.
It does. And we must remember Russia's explicit and unyielding demands. They require Ukraine to recognize Russia's newly defined borders, meaning acknowledging the claimed annexation of occupied territories, and adopt permanent neutrality.
Abandoning its aspirations to join NATO.
And those remain non-starters for Kyiv.
The financial landscape supporting Ukraine is also shifting, suggesting donor fatigue or at least shifting priorities.
For sure. Denmark, one of Ukraine's top military supporters, is having its military aid in 2026, dropping from $2.6 billion this year to $1.5 billion.
And the reallocation of aid by Sweden raises significant humanitarian concerns globally.
It does. Sweden is diverting approximately $212 million in aid away from 5 developing nations, Tanzania, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Liberia, and Bolivia, and reallocating those funds directly to Ukraine.
And while the motivation is to support a European partner, experts are warning of severe, potentially catastrophic consequences for the poorest people in the world.
Because of the sudden decision to pull critical developmental and humanitarian funds.
Then there's the highly contested and legally complex issue of frozen Russian assets. The German Bundestag decisively rejected a proposal to confiscate the estimated 210 billion euros in frozen Russian assets to fund Ukrainian aid.
Why the rejection? That money seems like a ready source of funds for reconstruction.
Well, the rejection was overwhelming. 455 members of parliament voted against it. The primary reasons cited are legal and security risks.
Okay.
Legally, confiscating state assets creates a dangerous international precedent. It undermines the foundation of private property rights and international investment law.
And security-wise.
They fear immediate and aggressive retaliation from Russia against European assets that are still within Russian jurisdiction. It shows the immense legal hurdles the EU faces. And finally, within Ukraine, there is growing social unrest over mobilization. When you read the reports about busification, that's the term they use, and saw those videos from Odessa.
The crowd mobbing a military conscription vehicle to free men who were being forcibly recruited.
It forces you to stop and remember the immense personal strain this war puts on the average Ukrainian family.
That is the human reality often missed in diplomatic summaries. Reports of surging desertions and this social unrest speak volumes about the internal stress the country is under.
And there's a critical nuclear danger update.
Yes, the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, issued a safety warning regarding the protective shelter over the Chernobyl reactor.
The new safe confinement.
Exactly. A drone strike in February critically damaged its structural integrity, compromising its primary safety functions and necessitating urgent repairs. The fact that the protective shield of a permanently hazardous nuclear facility has been intentionally targeted is obviously alarming.
Now let's turn to the evolving relationship between the U.S. and Europe. President Donald Trump's new national security strategy has caused a stir, signaling a move away from traditional multilateralism.
And adopting a highly critical stance toward Europe. The strategy focuses intensely on national interests, strong borders, and a self-sufficiency doctrine. But it includes a sharp ideological critique that Europe is facing civilizational erasure, primarily due to mass immigration and suffocating bureaucracy.
It is a harsh, provocative critique. How has Europe navigated the response?
The response has been necessarily nuanced. The EU foreign policy chief, Kaja Kallas, acknowledged the criticism but immediately reaffirmed the importance of the partnership, stating that the U.S. remains Europe's biggest ally.
But this acknowledgement comes against a backdrop of existing friction points.
Oh, absolutely. Things that predate the new strategy, like U.S. trade tariffs, Trump's persistent demands for increased NATO defense spending, and regulatory differences over digital standards and climate policies.
And Russia, predictably, welcomed the new strategy. Why is this significant?
The Kremlin expressed immediate approval, stating that the strategy aligns with Russia's views, particularly regarding the negative perception of NATO expansion and the emphasis on national sovereignty over international institutions.
So this convergence of viewpoints between Washington and Moscow on the fundamental criticisms of the NATO alliance, that's a big deal.
It is significant, and it further complicates transatlantic relations and forces Europe to rapidly accelerate its own defense and foreign policy independence.
Moving to the Middle East, we have updates on the Gaza conflict, revealing significant hardlines from Israeli leadership.
Yes, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu adopted a hardline stance, ruling out the establishment of a Palestinian state. He claimed that the true aim of such a state is the destruction of Israel.
Which puts him directly at odds with Germany's Chancellor Friedrich Merz, who reaffirmed support for a two-state solution during his recent visit.
It shows just how difficult a unified path forward will be. In terms of immediate conflict resolution, Netanyahu anticipated the second phase of the Gaza ceasefire would commence soon, but it's contingent upon Hamas returning the remains of the last hostage.
Highlighting the delicate and highly conditional nature of the process right now.
And crucially, the reports detail the vital role played by Qatar as a mediator. Qatar's Prime Minister, Sheikh Mohammed, advocated for inclusive dialogue, including engaging non-state actors like Hamas, arguing that without dialogue, conflicts can't be sustainably resolved.
He also directly addressed the highly contentious issue of financial aid distribution.
Yes, he was firm, asserting that Qatari humanitarian aid to Gaza is completely transparent, monitored by the U.S., and counters narratives that funds are diverted to Hamas.
And Qatar strongly opposes the forced displacement of Gazans,
emphasizing their right to remain, especially given reports that around 92% of residential buildings in Gaza have been damaged, making displacement even more catastrophic.
Finally, in East Asia, tensions between China and Japan are escalating dangerously following military confrontations over international waters near Okinawa.
This region feels like a constant geopolitical flashpoint.
It really does.
Japan has accused Chinese J-15 fighter jets of directing fire control radar at Japanese Self-Defense Force aircraft in 2 separate recent incidents.
And that's a massive escalation. Radar locking is considered the last step before engaging weapons systems.
It's an act of extreme hostility. Japan lodged a strong protest, viewing this as a clear, dangerous act.
And China's response?
They denied the claim, calling Japan's aircraft provocative during its naval exercises. This standoff marks a significant deterioration in relations, and the context is crucial.
It's linked partially to Japanese Prime Minister Sanai Takaichi's prior threats of military retaliation if China attempts to unify with Taiwan.
Exactly. China views Takaichi's comments as extremely provocative and warns against any Japanese intervention in what Beijing considers its internal affairs, raising the stakes in an already volatile region.
Okay, let's take a deep breath after that geopolitical storm and shift our focus to the planet itself. We're finding unsettling changes in the climate and some truly unconventional and, yes, slightly humorous health discoveries.
A welcome shift. We have a major update on the Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation, or AMOC.
The global conveyor belt.
Right, which is critical for climate stability. Researchers have finally solved the mystery of the century-old cold patch south of Greenland, linking it directly to the slowdown of the AMOC.
So this isn't just an atmospheric anomaly. The cold spot is a direct symptom of the decline in this vast ocean current.
Precisely. To explain the mechanism simply, the AMOC transports warm, salty water north from the tropics. In the North Atlantic, the water cools, becomes denser, and sinks, driving the global circulation.
And the decline is caused by an increased influx of fresh water from melting ice sheets, primarily from Greenland.
That's it. This fresh water disrupts the salinity and temperature gradients needed for the water to sink effectively, causing the entire current to weaken and slow down. That cold patch near Greenland is essentially where the warm current is failing to fully penetrate.
And the risk here is systemic, right? What happens if this conveyor belt slows down significantly?
The implications are vast and demand a reevaluation of current climate models. A slowdown poses systemic risks to weather patterns across the Northern Hemisphere. It could lead to cooler subarctic regions, dramatically shift rainfall patterns in Europe and North America, and potentially increase the frequency of extreme weather events.
So we're talking about direct, tangible effects on agricultural yields and how we plan for drought right here in our own communities.
It's no longer just an abstract model.
Turning to immediate water crises, the Rio Grande, a vital U.S.-Mexico border resource, is facing a severe pollution issue.
The problem stems from a failing wastewater treatment plant in Nuevo Laredo, Mexico, which has been dumping large amounts of untreated sewage directly into the river.
And the public health implications are massive.
They are. Monitoring data revealed E. coli contamination exceeding state safety standards by nearly 2,000 times.
2,000 times. That's an astonishing and terrifying level.
It is. The collaboration to fix this is a positive, though. A welcome $80 million U.S.-Mexico collaboration has been launched to rehabilitate the system.
A good example of cross-border efforts.
It is. Furthermore, due to historically low levels at the Amistad Reservoir and increasing water scarcity, there is growing discussion about future adaptation strategies, like direct potable reuse of treated wastewater.
And on the topic of water contamination, the situation in France is alarming, involving what are known as forever chemicals.
Yes. The French Food Safety Agency, ANSES, conducted extensive testing and found PFAS, or per- and polyfluoroalkyl substances, in a staggering 92% of France's tap water samples.
92%. That is almost universal contamination.
It raises immediate and profound public health concerns, given the established link between PFAS exposure and various severe health issues, including reproductive problems, immune system suppression, and increased cancer risk.
It signals that this industrial pollution problem is far more widespread than previously acknowledged.
Even in highly regulated European nations.
We also have a tragic update on the humanitarian side. The sinking of an inflatable boat off Crete in Greece.
This was a terrible tragedy. At least 17 migrants, many reported to be young, died, likely due to dehydration and extreme conditions. Their boat originated from Libya.
And this event underscores the persistent dangers of irregular migration. It also occurs as the Greek government is tightening its asylum policies.
Yes, suspending hearings for those arriving from Libya, creating immense pressure on rescue and aid organizations.
Okay, let's pivot to something that falls squarely in the surprising and slightly ridiculous category to lighten the mood a little. The flatulence factor.
I was waiting for this one.
I'm just going to say it. There are experts who suggest that smelling one's own flatulence might reduce Alzheimer's risk by 37%.
Yes, that's certainly an arresting headline and one that gets immediate attention.
To say the least.
But let's ground this firmly in the serious science that underlies it. The actual finding from a 2021 study is that hydrogen sulfide, or HUS, a gas naturally produced in the body and responsible for that signature smell, plays a crucial role in protecting mitochondria.
The powerhouses of nerve cells.
Exactly. So the core mechanism is sound. HUS is a neuroprotectant, even if the suggested delivery system is unconventional.
Okay.
HROs is a signaling molecule with protective neurological effects, and researchers advocate for further exploration into its balanced exposure, likely in carefully controlled therapeutic doses, not via the method suggested in the headline. The concept is ridiculous, but the underlying protective chemistry is very real and warrants serious study.
Now for some serious medical breakthroughs. First, a new oral drug for type 2 diabetes that offers a different mechanism than what we've seen recently.
This new drug is innovative because it operates differently from the current blockbuster treatments, like the GLP-1 agonists Ozempic, Wegovy, which primarily suppress appetite.
And this one.
This new oral medication enhances fat metabolism specifically within muscle tissue. Crucially, by helping muscle burn fat more effectively, it aims to preserve muscle mass, which is often lost during rapid weight loss treatments.
So it could be used alone or alongside the GLP-1 drugs to improve metabolic health without sacrificing muscle.
That's the potential.
We also have scientific validation for a traditional viral skincare trend.
Yes. Research now validates the use of rosemary for advanced wound healing. The compound carnosic acid, which is highly concentrated in rosemary, was shown in mouse studies to activate a regenerative nerve sensor,
And this activation accelerates the healing process and promotes scar-free healing.
which could be a promising, low-cost, natural alternative to current topical treatments.
And finally, the ongoing complexities of xenotransplantation, the use of animal organs in humans.
Specifically from genetically engineered pigs. We saw a profound step forward and a tragic reminder of the immense challenges. Researchers successfully implanted a genetically engineered pig liver into a human patient.
It functioned in the short term, but ultimately had to be removed, and the patient died.
It did. This highlights the immense potential of using genetically modified pigs to address the severe shortage of human organs. But the challenges remain immense. They include the risk of xenozoonosis, the transmission of animal diseases to humans, serious ethical debates, and longevity concerns, as pig tissues may age and fail faster. We are still in the early, highly experimental phase.
Now we move to events closer to the ground, focusing on safety, turmoil, and cultural developments that impact daily life.
We have several tragic incidents to report that underscore critical safety and regulatory failures globally. A devastating fire at Birch by Romeo Lane, a popular nightclub in North Goa, India, claimed the lives of 25 people, including staff and tourists.
And the scrutiny here is severe, suggesting this was an entirely preventable tragedy.
It is. Initial investigations suggest the venue was operating illegally with multiple serious fire safety violations, including inadequate and overly narrow exits for the capacity of the crowd, which made evacuation impossible.
It just highlights the urgent need for stricter enforcement of safety standards.
Especially in rapidly growing tourism hotspots where regulation often lags behind development.
Meanwhile, in Africa, violence continues unabated, underscoring severe security crises.
We have to report on two deeply tragic incidents. In a township west of Pretoria, South Africa, a hostile shooting resulted in the deaths of at least 12 people, including a 3-year-old child.
Highlighting the persistent problem of township violence.
And separately, in Sudan, drone strikes attributed to paramilitary forces resulted in the deaths of dozens of individuals, including at least 33 children, when they targeted a kindergarten in the town of Kalogi, South Kordofan.
It's an acute humanitarian crisis marked by a terrifying disregard for civilian life.
Absolutely.
Regarding high-profile legal matters, former NFL star Antonio Brown is leveraging Florida's controversial Stand Your Ground law to seek dismissal of an attempted murder charge.
This case immediately draws national attention to the broader debate over self-defense laws in the U.S. and their application. The legal challenge centers on whether Brown can prove he felt a genuine fear for his life when the incident occurred.
Separately, in Rajasthan, India, 4 junior clerks from the High Court were arrested for a sophisticated cheating scheme during a competitive exam.
Using Bluetooth devices and spy cameras. It undermines public trust in the judicial recruitment process and calls for significantly stricter oversight.
Finally, we need to focus on the human stories emerging from the unprecedented devastation caused by Hurricane Melissa in the Caribbean.
focusing specifically on Jamaican mothers and their families. The devastation is profound and ongoing. These aren't just statistics. These are vivid, personal stories of loss.
Like the story of Rose, a former cruise dispatcher, whose wooden home was so thoroughly destroyed that only the bare concrete foundation remained.
And Sharon, a former gas station supervisor who lost both her home and her job and is now in a crowded shelter with her 2 children. And Sonia, who fled her coastal home carrying her grandson, who has a heart condition.
The disruption to their livelihoods shows how the economic infrastructure of the entire island has been temporarily crippled.
Absolutely. And the International Organization for Migration is providing aid, but the United Nations has warned that 1.6 million children across the wider Caribbean are in jeopardy from potential flooding, landslides, and disease.
Let's move to the lighter side of headlines, starting with the winner of the world's highest-octane racing series, Formula One.
Lando Norris has secured his first Formula One World Championship title in the final race of the 2025 season in Abu Dhabi.
He managed to clinch the title despite finishing third in that final race.
Yes, thanks to his points lead and consistent performance throughout the year, a real testament to his perseverance and the team's engineering prowess.
Over on the pitch, there's serious internal drama brewing at Liverpool Football Club with star forward Mohamed Salah.
This kind of internal rift can be devastating to team morale. Salah has publicly stated that he feels thrown under the bus by the club's management and head coach Arne Slot.
That's a direct public challenge to Slot's authority.
It is. It indicates a major rift over tactical decisions that has clearly boiled over into the media. Salah's comments come at a critical juncture and raise immediate speculation about his future at Anfield.
And it puts immense pressure on the coach to either mend the relationship or move the player.
Exactly.
Finally, we cap off the sports world with college football playoff news.
The CFP bracket has been set, and there were significant upsets. Indiana won the Big Ten championship, securing a surprising spot in the playoff bracket.
And in the SEC championship.
Georgia smothered Alabama for the title, also locking up a first-round bye. Indiana's rise from relative obscurity to a title contender is one of the most significant stories of the college football season.
Let's look at how politics and culture are intersecting, specifically regarding the Kennedy Center honors in the U.S. Under the current U.S. administration, the awards ceremony is increasingly perceived as showier, emptier, and more political.
Critics argue that the event has become less about purely honoring high artistic achievement and more about political spectacle and fundraising. President Trump awarded medals to honorees like actor Sylvester Stallone and the band Kiss.
And the administration also championed the fact that the Kennedy Center achieved record fundraising of $23 million.
Nearly double the amount raised during the previous administration. So while the money is there, critics suggest the cultural and nonpartisan significance of the awards has diminished in favor of spectacle.
The Trump administration also made a specific highly charged policy change regarding access to U.S. national parks.
This move immediately drew criticism. They removed Martin Luther King Jr. Day and Juneteenth holidays recognizing key civil rights history from the list of fee-free national park entry days.
And instead, they added Flag Day,
which conveniently coincides with President Trump's birthday. Critics view this as a clear attempt to de-emphasize civil rights history in favor of nationalistic symbolism.
And lastly, a dramatic sale from a famous filmmaker to cover costs associated with his ambitious project.
Francis Ford Coppola's custom FP Journ watch sold at auction for a staggering $11 million, making it the most expensive FP Journ watch ever sold.
And this is directly linked to financial difficulties he faced with his passion project film, Megalopolis.
It is. It illustrates the intersection of high art, luxury markets, and the crushing financial realities of ambitious, independent filmmaking. When you pour everything you have into a project, sometimes your rarest possessions have to cover the bills.
As we try to pull all this together, the core tension is just undeniable. We're living through a period where the relentless pace of innovation,
whether it's theoretical paradox-free time travel, breakthroughs in AI with autonomous vehicles, or new diabetes medications,
is colliding head-on with these seemingly intractable geopolitical and humanitarian conflicts.
That collision is defining our current global landscape.
And the key takeaway for me is the sheer velocity of structural pressure and power shifts we're witnessing. We see it everywhere. Systems are breaking down, forcing radical reinvention.
The U.S. is altering its security relationship with Europe.
Tech giants like Meta are forced to delay and rethink their strategy. Startups are realizing they must refound their very mission just to survive.
Flexibility in thinking isn't a luxury right now. It's absolutely essential for navigating this era.
It is. And it forces us to ask deep, almost philosophical questions. We started this dive with the physics of reality, realizing that the universe may have built-in mechanisms to prevent logical contradictions, to ensure stability.
So reflecting on the incredible complexity discovered in particle physics and the cosmos, we leave you with this final provocative thought.
If we can theoretically prove paradox-free travel is possible by understanding invisible self-correcting forces in 4 dimensions, what invisible force is preventing global political actors from finding a stable resolution on Earth?
What foundational rules of human conduct or global organization are we misunderstanding that keep us locked in these cycles of conflict?
Instead of allowing the system to self-correct toward peace.
Something certainly to mull over until our next deep dive into the information stack.
Indeed. We'll see you next time.
For enjoying Artificially Informed.
Hit subscribe and share it with a friend.
From the left, the right, and straight from the algorithm.
Thank you.
That's it for today's Artificially Informed.
Nope. Thanks for spending your time with us.
Yeah.
Stay sharp, stay curious. See you next time.